Hello everyone. In the last weeks we've been going through the monitoring and evaluation system. We've been reconstructing the logical framework, asking monitoring and evaluation questions, building indicators, and now it's time to collect information. Why are we collecting information? Well, to answer the M&E questions, by feeding your indicators and other information needs you may have, and taking into consideration your resources, which may depend on the time of and taking into consideration your resources, which may depend on the time of your data collection. So in this diagram, you can see most of the tools that we use to collect information in a monitoring and evaluation system. You can see below the diagram that we have some tools which are better to understand what happens, and some that are better to generalize to go to a higher level of understanding. And on the left, you can see that some of the tools are rather qualitative and some of the tools are rather quantitative. Among the tools that you can have to really understand the situation at stake are the case studies, the interviews, also in some cases the focus groups and documentary analysis. And the tools that you will use to generalize are mainly the surveys and statistical analysis. Some of these tools are tools that you would rather use for monitoring, and some are tools that you would rather use for evaluation. But actually, there is no full limit between the two. Only the case studies are a tool that you would really use only in an evaluation. And the tool that you would use the most often in monitoring would be documentary analysis and statistical analysis. When I talk about documentary analysis, can be, for instance, the documents you get from the project level or from your partners' reports. And statistical analysis would be the data you would get from your own database or partners' database in the evaluation. And in the evaluation side, you would have the interviews, individual interviews that you would do with beneficiaries, with partners, to understand what are the issues and what works and what does not. The focus groups, which are a good way to synthesize the information available and to come with decisions about what to do, what lessons to learn, etc. And the surveys, which are extremely useful to understand whether we had a general impact or a limited impact on the population we target. So let's focus a moment on the survey, and especially on a type of survey which is called the CAP survey. CAP stands for Knowledge, Attitude and Practices. This is an acronym you would use mainly for everything related to capacity building, which can be building awareness, which can be learning things from trainings, which can be helping people improve their professional capacity with support, etc. In very plain words, these CAP surveys are all about did people learn new stuff? Are they convinced of what they learned? And do they use the stuff they learned? And you can actually build your questionnaire along these three questions by adapting to your specific situation. And it will give you a good overview of your project or program effect when it has a capacity building section. And to understand also where does it work and until where does it work. For instance, you can see in a survey that the people actually learned things, but they are not really convinced that they should use what they learned. Or they did learn things and they are convinced that they should, but actually they don't have the resources to do it. One final thing we will discuss this week is the type of survey that you will develop for your monitoring and evaluation system. There is in the course a long presentation of the different aspects of surveys. I will stay here along the size of the population, which actually condition a lot the type of survey that you can do and what you can expect from it. So if your population is below 200 people, you can just target everybody in the population and try to have as much answers as possible. Actually, this is you can have very good results here. Perhaps they will not be statistically valid, but on a very small population, actually trying to reach statistical validity is quite hard to do and not always necessary. When your population is above 200, you should start considering making a sample. Actually, this is especially the case if it's hard to reach the population, because when your population is still under 400 and 500, if you can target them all, for instance via an electronic survey, well, you should do it actually, but we know that when we are in remote areas or with population who do not have access to the internet, you have to build a sample. And that sample, you have a formula, very simple formula to use, which is in the course. Take it with a grain of salt, because when you are on a small population, it will be difficult to have a valid population. But the biggest your population, the more you will go toward approximately 500 persons in your sample, and twice that if you can't have a random sample. And if you're above 5,000 people, the same apply, but you can also try to go towards a quasi-experimental design, which means that actually you will collect information about a large section of the population, and you will then draw a sample from that population to see who benefit from the program, and see whether you can attribute the changes that you've observed to your program. So this is just a short overview. You have resources about impact evaluation which are available on the website of the FAO. But keep in mind that a survey is always an interesting tool to collect information about your population, and that the biggest your sample, the more accurate will be your information.